still don't like standing on frozen water. Even now, years later, when winter comes and lakes turn solid and people walk across them like it's nothing, my body reacts before my mind does. My feet lock. My breath shortens. I listen for sounds most people ignore. Because frozen lakes remember things. This happened in northern Wisconsin, near a town so small it barely shows up on a map. The kind of place where winter lasts longer than it should, and the lake is the center of everything: fishing, skating, snowmobiling, even funerals in a way. I was working for the county that winter. Not law enforcement. Not search and rescue. Just a temporary environmental survey job. We tracked ice thickness, oxygen levels, and winter fish die-offs. It was boring work most days. Cold, quiet, repetitive. Until we found something under the ice that shouldn't have been there. The lake was called Halvorsen Lake. Locals just called it the water. About 3 miles across, irregular shape, deep in the middle. No public marina. No cabins directly on the shore. Mostly woods and one narrow access road. People trusted that lake. They drove snowmobiles across it, parked trucks on it, set up ice shanties for weeks at a time. It had never failed anyone. That winter was colder than usual. Prolonged cold. The kind that makes ice thick and dangerous in a different way, solid enough to support weight but brittle underneath. We were drilling test holes about a mile from shore. Just me and another guy named Brent. No one else around. Windless day. Overcast sky. The lake looked like a white desert. On our third hole, the auger hit something that wasn't ice. You know, when you drill ice long enough, you expect resistance, then sudden release when you hit water. This wasn't that. It was dull, soft, almost rubbery. Brent thought I'd hit old debris. A log maybe. That lake had a history of dumping decades ago. I leaned into the auger again. The bit came back up dark. Not muddy dark. Not algae. Black oily streaks smeared across the blades. And there was a smell. Not rot. Something chemical. Sweet and wrong. We widened the hole manually and dropped a camera probe. Just a cheap underwater unit. Grainy, low resolution. The screen flickered. At first, it showed nothing but cloudy darkness. Then something pale drifted into frame. Not fish. Flat. Smooth. With straight edges. Brent leaned closer. That metal? I adjusted the angle. It wasn't metal. It was plastic. Industrial grade. Thick. Molded. And it was attached to something else. The camera drifted lower, and that's when the shape became clear. It was a container. A large one. The kind used for chemical storage or waste transport. And it was strapped shut, with something wrapped around it. I pulled the camera back up immediately. We didn't say anything for a long time. Just stood there on the ice, wind brushing snow across our boots, the lake silent beneath us. There were no records of anything being dumped there. No spills. No accidents. We reported it anyway. The county told us to mark the coordinates and stop work until further notice. 2 days later, the sheriff's department showed up with state environmental officials. They drilled multiple holes around the site. That's when we realized it wasn't just one object. There were more. At least 4 large containers, arranged in a rough line beneath the ice, all sitting on the lake bed. Someone hadn't dumped them randomly. They'd been placed, carefully, years ago. The sheriff ordered the area closed. Ice fishing banned. Snowmobile trail rerouted. Officially, they told the public it was unsafe ice conditions. Unofficially, they told us to stop asking questions. That should have been the end of it. But the lake didn't let it end there. A week later, a local fisherman named Carl went missing. Carl was in his 60s. Lived alone. Fished that lake every winter since the 70s. Knew every current, every soft spot. He went out early one morning before the closure signs went up. His truck was found parked near the access road. His ice auger was still standing upright in the ice. The hole he drilled was clean. No signs of struggle. No tracks leading away. Just one thing missing. His fishing shack. The sheriff said it probably broke loose and sank. That explanation didn't sit right with anyone. Fishing shacks don't just disappear. And then the water test results came back. Elevated levels of compounds that shouldn't be there. Old compounds. Restricted ones. Stuff phased out decades ago. The containers weren't just storage. They were leaking. Slowly. The state ordered an extraction. That meant divers. They waited for a calm day. Thick ice. Minimal current. I wasn't supposed to be there, but I volunteered to help with surface monitoring. I needed to know. They cut a wide opening in the ice. Black water underneath, completely lightless. The divers went down one by one. The first container came up intact, covered in growth, the straps still tight. The second came up cracked. Something inside had swollen. The third one never made it to the surface. The diver came up instead. Fast. Too fast. He tore his mask off and started vomiting on the ice. He kept saying the same thing over and over. There's something else down there. They thought he meant debris. He shook his head. No. Someone put something in them. They opened the first container. Inside was another container. Smaller. Still. Inside that. I didn't see it directly, but I heard enough. Organic material. Preserved. Human. The sheriff shut everything down immediately. Media blackout. The official report said historical illegal dumping. No mention of bodies. No mention of Carl. The divers refused to go back down. That night the lake cracked. Not from temperature change. From pressure. People living nearby reported loud booming sounds beneath the ice. Like something shifting. The next morning more objects appeared. Not where we had drilled. Elsewhere. Frozen just beneath the surface. Shapes visible through the ice. Too many to count. The state pulled out entirely. Declared the lake unsafe indefinitely. Carl was never found. Neither were the rest of the containers. By spring, when the ice melted, the lake was empty. No debris surfaced. No containers floated up. Nothing. As if whatever had been there had gone deeper. Removed. The lake was drained the following year. They said it was for environmental remediation. They never released photos of the lake bed. The area is fenced now. No fishing. No skating. No access. People still live nearby. They still hear things in winter. Deep sounds. From under the ice. And sometimes when the temperature drops fast enough, dark shapes appear just below the frozen surface again. Waiting. No one swims in Lake Perrin anymore. Not even in summer. People will tell you it's because of pollution or old rumors, or the way the water looks darker than it should. That's not the real reason. The real reason is that in January of 2004, the lake gave something back, and then took more in return. Lake Perrin sits just outside a dying industrial town in northern Michigan. It used to be a company lake, built decades earlier to supply cooling water for a manufacturing plant that shut down in the late 1980s. After the closure, the lake became public by default. No fences, no lifeguards, just water surrounded by trees and rusting infrastructure. By winter it froze solid, perfect for ice fishing. That January was brutally cold. Weeks of sub-zero temperatures. The ice grew thick, thicker than anyone remembered. Snowmobiles crossed it without hesitation. Trucks parked on it. I was a volunteer firefighter then. Not full-time. Just someone with basic training and a radio, called in for emergencies when needed. We got the call early one morning. Ice fishermen not responding, possible medical emergency. When we arrived, there were 3 fishing shanties spaced about 30 yards apart near the center of the lake. 2 men standing outside one of them, pale and shaking. They kept saying, "He won't come up." We assumed someone had fallen through the ice. That wasn't what happened. Inside the third shanty, a man named Douglas Kerr was kneeling beside a hole in the ice. His fishing line was still down. His auger still upright. His gloves lay neatly beside him. He was frozen in place. Not hypothermia, literal frozen skin. His knees were stuck to the ice. His palms pressed flat against it as if he tried to push something away. The hole in the ice wasn't broken. It was melted. A perfect circle, edges smooth, water beneath black and steaming faintly despite the cold. That alone should have told us something was wrong. We tried to pull him back. His hands didn't move. They tore. Skin left behind on the ice like adhesive. One of the other fishermen started screaming and ran. We called it in as a fatality and waited for state authorities. They arrived hours later and immediately shut the lake down. They told us Douglas had likely hit a pocket of warmer water, thermal vent, gas release, something like that. That explanation didn't explain the object. Because when the ice around the hole refroze overnight, something was trapped inside it. Something large, dark, rectangular, just beneath the surface. I saw it the next morning when I returned with the sheriff. The ice had cleared enough to see through it. It looked like a door. Metal. Rusted. With hinges. Embedded vertically in the ice, standing upright in the water below, as if it were part of something much larger beneath the lake. No one could explain how it got there. Lake Perrin had no recorded structures beneath it. No sunken boats. No submerged buildings. The sheriff ordered a sonar scan. That's when things stopped making sense. The scan showed multiple vertical shapes beneath the lake bed, not resting on it, extending down through it, as if whatever was under the lake continued below the ground itself. They brought in a dive team. The divers refused to go below 15 feet. They said the water felt wrong, too warm, moving upward, like the lake was breathing. One diver came back shaking, saying he'd seen another door, then another, then a frame, something like a hallway, underwater. None of it connected to the surface. The official report listed unidentified submerged debris. No further investigation. Then the lake started changing. Ice formed unevenly. Thin patches appeared randomly. Holes melted open overnight and refroze by morning. Fish floated up dead, eyes burned white. And people started hearing sounds. Low metallic sounds under the ice. Like something being dragged. The town council closed the lake permanently. That should have been enough. But people don't respect closed lakes. A week after the closure, 3 teenagers snuck out there at night. Snowmobiles. No lights. They didn't come home. Search teams found one snowmobile abandoned near the center of the lake. Tracks led toward one of the melted holes. Stopped. Nothing else. No broken ice. No splash. No struggle. The second snowmobile was found the next day, frozen into the ice itself, half submerged as if it had been slowly pulled downward before the surface refroze. The third was never found. Neither were the teenagers. By then rumors spread. Old factory workers started talking. About sealed tunnels. About waste that wasn't waste. About experiments. About things built underground that were never dismantled, just flooded and forgotten. One man claimed Lake Perrin wasn't natural at all. It was a cap. A cover. Winter made it worse. Cold temperatures increased pressure beneath the ice. The lake groaned at night. Cracks formed in straight lines, not random fractures. Patterns. In February, the sheriff received a call from a local who said the lake was open. Not melted. Open. A rectangular opening in the ice. Perfectly shaped. We went out there again. The hole was real. 10 feet by 6 feet. Edges clean. No signs of melting. No water movement. Just a dark void below. And something else. Metal rungs. A ladder. Going down. The sheriff backed away immediately. That night, power went out across half the town. Generators failed. Phone lines went dead. People heard pounding beneath their floors. Like pressure rising. The lake cracked so violently it woke people miles away. By morning, the opening was gone. I saw it again. Smooth. Untouched. Spring came early that year. Ice melted fast. Too fast. But nothing surfaced. No doors. No debris. No bodies. Just water. So dark. The lake was drained later that year under the excuse of environmental cleanup. Workers hit something solid beneath the mud. Concrete. Steel. Sealed structures. They were told to stop. The lake was refilled. No explanation given. Lake Perrin still freezes every winter. People swear they see shapes beneath the ice. Rectangles. Straight lines. Doors. And sometimes, after long cold nights, they find handprints frozen into the surface. From below. The object was already there before the lake froze. That's what still bothers me the most. Because it means whatever happened didn't begin in winter. Winter just made it visible. I was part of the county search and recovery unit in upstate New York for nearly 11 years. We handled drownings, missing hikers, boating accidents, anything involving water in rural areas. Most of the time, lakes keep their secrets well. Murky water, deep silt, poor visibility. Ice changes that. Ice preserves. Ice reveals. This happened in January 2011 at Lake Ashwood, a glacial lake about 40 miles north of Albany. Old lake. Deep lake. Fed by underground springs. No industry nearby. No history of dumping. mostly used by locals for skating and ice fishing in winter. The call came in from a retired couple who lived near the eastern shore. They walked the lake every morning. That day they noticed something dark beneath the ice, close to the surface, near the center. At first, deputies thought it was a submerged log, until someone realized it hadn't been there the day before. When we arrived, the lake was quiet. Overcast sky, snow muffling sound. The ice was clear in that area, naturally polished by wind. You could see several feet down. The object was unmistakable. A car. Not sunk to the bottom. Suspended. Frozen into the ice itself, roof down, wheels angled slightly, as if it had been lowered gently and then trapped as the lake froze around it. There were no cracks around it. No impact marks. No signs of the ice breaking and refreezing. It looked placed. The car was old. Late 90s model. Dark blue sedan. Windows intact. Doors closed. And someone was inside. We could see the outline through the windshield. Slumped forward in the driver's seat. Hands still on the wheel. That's when the lake was shut down. State police took over. Media kept at a distance. They said the car likely drove onto thin ice earlier in the season and slowly became trapped as the lake froze. That explanation didn't survive scrutiny. Ice doesn't form that way. And cars don't sink upward. We cut a perimeter around the vehicle and waited for extraction equipment. They wanted to remove it before ice fishing resumed elsewhere on the lake. While we waited, I was assigned to surface observation. That's when I noticed something else. There were marks beneath the ice. Not cracks. Scratches. Long, curved gouges in the frozen underside, radiating away from the car. Like something had dragged it. From deeper water. I pointed it out to my supervisor. He told me to stop speculating. That night, before extraction, the lake made noise. Deep booming sounds echoed across the ice, like pressure shifting, but rhythmic. Repeating. 3 booms. Pause. 3 booms again. People living nearby called 911 thinking it was an explosion. The next morning the car had shifted. Only a few inches, but enough to notice. The gouges beneath the ice had lengthened. Something had moved it again. We pulled it out that afternoon. As the car broke through the surface, the smell hit first. Not decay. Cold preserves too well for that. It smelled metallic. Sure. Inside the car, the body was intact. Mid-30s. No visible injuries. No water in the lungs. No signs of drowning. The medical examiner would later say he died before entering the water. The license plate came back to a missing person report from 8 years earlier. The man had vanished on a winter night after leaving work. His car was never found. No body. No witnesses. Until now. Except the lake hadn't frozen that winter. Records showed it stayed mostly open, meaning the car couldn't have been trapped then. So where had it been? The car was taken away. Case reopened. But that wasn't the end of it. 2 days later, another object appeared. Not a car. A refrigerator. Standing upright beneath the ice, door facing upward, handle visible just inches below the surface. It hadn't drifted in. It was centered. Aligned. The sheriff ordered sonar scans of the entire lake. What they found didn't make it into the official report. The scan revealed multiple large objects beneath the ice, arranged in rough clusters. Not scattered. Grouped. Vehicles. Appliances. Large metal shapes. All at different depths. All positioned vertically. As if staged. Divers were called. They descended near one of the deeper objects. They didn't last long. The water temperature was higher than expected. Visibility poor. Strong upward currents. One diver reported seeing cables. Another said he felt movement beneath the silt. They aborted the dive. Then the ice cracked. Not randomly. In straight lines. Intersecting. Dividing the lake into sections. The cracks followed the sonar cluster boundaries. As if something beneath was pushing upward along predefined paths. That night, the sheriff received a call from a nearby homeowner. He said the lake was glowing faintly blue under the ice. We went out there, and it was not bioluminescence, not reflection, just a dull, cold light emanating from beneath the surface, strongest where the objects were concentrated. The glow pulsed, slowly. The state ordered a halt to all activity. Media blackout. Environmental hazard explanation released. But people had already seen enough. In the days that followed, Ice fishermen reported hooks catching on something solid where nothing had been before. Lines snapped. Augers struck metal. Then someone found another car. Different model. Different color. Different year. Same position. Suspended. Occupied. This one belonged to a woman missing since the early 90s. Her family had long accepted she was gone. She hadn't drowned. She hadn't crashed. She had been placed. Winter continued tightening its grip. More objects surfaced under the ice. A boat motor. A filing cabinet. A safe. Each appearing overnight. Each perfectly positioned. As if the lake was organizing them. On the coldest night of January, the ice rose. Not shattered. Rose. Several inches in the center of the lake, forming a dome. Pressure beneath it. The sheriff called an emergency evacuation of nearby homes. Before anyone could act, the dome collapsed inward. Water surged upward, then froze again. Smooth. Unbroken. After that, everything stopped. No more objects appeared. The glow vanished. Spring thaw came. The lake returned to normal. Officials drained a small section near the center later that year. They claimed to find nothing unusual, but they never drained the deepest part. Lake Ashwood is still there. Still freezes every winter. Locals say if you walk out far enough on clear ice, you can see shapes below. More than before. Arranged carefully. Waiting for the lake to remember them again. The lake didn't freeze all at once. That was the first thing the biologists noticed. I didn't care about ice patterns back then. I was a county dispatcher in rural Minnesota, the kind of job where winters blur together. Traffic accidents, hypothermia calls, missing snowmobilers who always turn up cold and angry but alive. Clearwater Lake was just another frozen surface on the map, until it started freezing wrong. Clearwater is deep, over 300 feet in places, fed by underground channels that no one has fully mapped. Locals know it as a breathing lake. It never fully locks up the way smaller lakes do. Thin ice near the center. Strong currents underneath. That January, after a sudden temperature drop, the shoreline froze solid overnight. But the center didn't. Instead, a perfect oval remained open, black water steaming in the cold air. That's not unheard of. What was unheard of was what appeared inside it. The first call came from a snowmobile patrol volunteer just after dawn. "There's something floating," he said, "but it's not drifting." Search and rescue boats couldn't reach it because the ice around the open water was unstable. They sent a drone instead. The live feed came through dispatch. The object was rectangular, long, narrow, a shipping container. Bright orange, faded and scratched, bobbing gently in the open water, yet held perfectly in place as if tethered from below. Shipping containers don't end up in inland lakes, especially not ones with no industrial access within 50 miles. By the time authorities arrived, the oval of open water had shrunk. Ice crept inward hour by hour. The container didn't move. It simply became trapped as the surface sealed over it. Frozen mid-lake. That alone should have been the story. But winter had more time. The sheriff closed the lake and brought in state environmental agencies. They claimed it might have been illegal dumping decades ago, dredged up by currents. But when they ran sonar, the operator went quiet, then pale, then asked to recalibrate. The lake bed beneath the container wasn't flat, was disturbed, scoured, as if something large had been dragged repeatedly across it. And the container wasn't alone. There were others, at least 6 more, all identical, all aligned in a rough arc beneath the ice, as if arranged deliberately. Divers were considered, then ruled out. The water temperature was inconsistent. Warm pockets, sudden drops, violent vertical currents. So they waited. Cold thickens ice. Cold preserves. Cold reveals. A week later, a fisherman ignored the closure signs. He drilled a hole less than 50 yards from the container. His auger hit metal. That's when the screaming started. By the time responders arrived, the man was gone. His auger was still spinning slowly, frozen upright. The hole beneath it had widened, not broken, melted, and something dark pressed up against the ice from below. Not the container, something else. After that, the calls multiplied. People reported hearing knocks under the ice. 3 slow impacts, plus, then again. Homes near the lake felt vibrations through their foundations. Dogs refused to go outside. On the third week, hairline fractures appeared on the ice surface. Straight lines, intersecting, radiating outward from the container's position. Like stress fractures, but too precise. The county authorized a controlled extraction. They cut a massive rectangular section of ice around the container. As cranes lifted it free, everyone stepped back. The container was sealed. No rust through, no damage. Just one thing scratched into the metal near the base. A word, return. They didn't open it. Not there. They transported it to a secure facility. That night, the lake cracked open. The remaining ice fractured violently, shattering along the same straight lines. Water surged upward, then stilled. By morning, the lake had refrozen completely. Solid, smooth, perfect. No oval, no fractures, nothing visible beneath the ice. Sonar showed empty water. The containers were gone. All of them. Authorities claimed faulty equipment. They closed the investigation. But winter wasn't finished. A month later, a local teen vanished while skating. Witnesses said the ice didn't break. He simply sank, slowly, as if the ice softened beneath him. Search teams found something the next day. A glove, frozen into the ice from below. Palm facing upward, pressed flat. Then another glove appeared farther out. Then a boot, each one emerging overnight, trapped just beneath the surface. No body was ever found. When spring finally came, Clearwater Lake thawed unevenly. Sections collapsed inward. And when the water cleared, people saw shapes moving beneath the surface. Large, rectangular, slow, still aligned, still circling the center. The state declared Clearwater Lake environmentally unstable and restricted access permanently. No swimming, no fishing, no ice use. Locals say on the coldest nights, when the surface begins to freeze again, the knocking returns. 3 slow impacts. Pause. Waiting for the ice to seal. Waiting for winter to finish the job. The lake was never meant to freeze. That's what the old survey note said, buried in a county archive no one had opened in decades. Lake Alderro, western Montana. Deep, narrow, fed by geothermal veins that kept the water moving even in extreme cold. Locals called it the warm lake. Steam sometimes rose from its surface in January, thin and ghost-like. It wasn't supposed to hold ice. But in the winter of 1997 it did. I was working seasonal maintenance for the county then, plowing access roads, checking trail signage, assisting rangers when needed. Nothing glamorous. Long hours, cold hands, quiet days. The first time Alderro froze, people treated it like a novelty. By mid-December, a thin skin formed near the edges. By January, the entire surface had sealed over. Smooth, gray, silent. No one remembered seeing that before. The rangers closed the area immediately, posted warnings. Thin ice, unstable conditions. Someone ignored them. The call came in just before sunrise on January 14th. Something's on the lake. That was all the dispatcher said. When we arrived, the sun was barely up, throwing pale light across the ice. A park ranger stood near the shoreline, staring out toward the center. There, he said, pointing. At first, I thought it was a reflection. Then I realized it was beneath the ice. A shape, long, straight-edged, too geometric to be natural. We walked closer, careful with our footing. The ice creaked softly under our weight, not cracking but shifting like pressure adjusting. About 50 feet out, the object became clear. It was a wooden structure, a coffin, not floating on the surface, embedded beneath it, perfectly aligned with the lake's centerline, resting just inches below the ice, lid facing upward. The wood was dark, waterlogged but intact. Iron fixtures still visible. A nameplate nailed to the top. No name engraved. Just scratches, deep ones, as if someone inside had tried to claw their way out. The ranger radioed for backup. State authorities arrived within hours. They cordoned off the lake and brought in ice specialists. No one could explain how it got there. Coffins don't drift, they sink. And this one wasn't resting on the lake bed. It was suspended, frozen into place as the ice formed around it, which meant it had been positioned there before the freeze. They debated extraction, then decided against it. The ice was unstable, they said. Too risky. Instead, they marked the location and planned to wait for controlled thaw conditions. That night, the temperature dropped sharply. By morning, the ice had thickened, and there was another coffin. This one closer to shore. Same design, same scratches, same lack of identification. Then another appeared, and another. Each morning, after the coldest nights, more shapes revealed themselves beneath the ice. Not randomly scattered. Arranged. A slow spiral winding inward toward the center of the lake. By the end of January, there were 12. The media got wind. Officials claimed it was an art installation. A hoax. Old burial debris washed in from somewhere else. No one believed that. Then the sound started. Low knocking from beneath the ice. 3 taps. Pause. 3 taps again. At night, residents miles away reported hearing it echo across the frozen surface, amplified by the cold air. Animals reacted first. Deer avoided the shoreline. Birds refused to land on the ice. Dogs whined and pulled away during walks. One ranger quit after a night patrol. He said he'd seen movement beneath the ice. Not drifting, shifting. Like the coffins were adjusting their positions. The county ordered sonar mapping. The results never became public. But I saw the technician afterward. He was shaking. He told me the coffins weren't resting on anything. They were attached, suspended by vertical structures extending downward beyond sonar range, like supports, or chains, or columns. And beneath those, he wouldn't finish the sentence. The first disappearance happened February 3rd. A college student from Missoula ignored the closures and walked onto the ice at night. He wanted photos, viral content. His phone was found the next morning near the shore. The last image on it showed the coffins beneath the ice. Except in that final photo, one of them was open. The lid tilted back. Dark interior visible. Empty. Search teams found no sign of him. No break in the ice. No tracks leading away. Just a new coffin near the edge the following morning. Same size. Same scratches. People stopped sleeping. Those who lived nearby reported dreams of water pressing against their chest. Of weight. Of cold hands pulling downward. One woman said she woke with frost on her windows forming handprints from the outside. By mid-February, the lake began doing something worse. The ice started rising. Not cracking. Rising. Large sections lifted inches, then feet, forming uneven ridges and domes across the surface. Pressure from below. As if something was pushing up, testing the seal. Emergency meetings were held. The state ordered a full evacuation of the immediate area. Before it could happen, the ice ruptured. Not outward. Inward. A massive section collapsed into the lake, swallowing several coffins at once. Water surged upward. Steam filled the air. Then within hours, the surface refroze. Smoother than before. No sign of collapse. No coffins visible. Sonar now showed nothing. Empty water. As if everything beneath had withdrawn. Spring came early. The ice melted completely. The lake returned to its old behavior, warm, restless, refusing to freeze. Officials declared the event a natural anomaly. No coffins were recovered. No explanation given. Years passed. Lake Alderho remained open, unfrozen, quiet. Until 2019. A cold snap hit Montana harder than it had in decades. And the lake froze again. This time there were no coffins. Just one object. A metal door. Industrial. Set flush beneath the ice at the lake center. No handle. No hinges. Just a seam. And scratches radiating outward. Desperate. The lake is closed now. Permanently. But every winter, when temperatures drop far enough, a thin sheet of ice forms briefly over the center. And people swear they hear knocking. From below. 3 taps. Pause. Waiting for winter to finish what it started.